Welcome. This is your Need to Know. This is an episode recap, so there will be spoilers, sweetie. Music by sisters AIrythmic. Check them out on YouTube.
This is your Need to Know.
Spoiler, sweetie.
This is your Need to Know.
Okay, wow, this latest Lower Decks episode, Upper Decks,
Yeah.
it really threw me for a loop. I mean, what did you think about having a whole episode focused on the senior officers of the Cerritos? It's not what we're used to.
No, not at all. And especially with the season finale coming up so soon, it really makes you wonder how it all fits into the bigger picture. The whole story arc Lower Decks has been building up.
Right. Like, is this just a fun little side trip, or is there something more to it? I mean, I've been digging through the Reddit threads, trying to see what other fans are saying, and let me tell you, the reactions are all over the place.
Oh, I bet. Reddit's the perfect place to see the full spectrum of opinions, from the casual viewer to the diehard Trekkie who's noticed things even the writers probably forgot.
Exactly. And one thing that really stood out to me is how people are reacting to seeing the senior officers, like Ransom and Freeman and Shax, in a totally different light. It's almost like they're more relatable now that we're seeing them outside of their usual roles.
It's like seeing your teachers outside of school.
Yeah.
Right? Suddenly they're not just authority figures anymore. They're people with their own quirks and problems and vulnerabilities.
Totally. But it's funny because some of those quirks are causing some serious debate online. Like, take Ransom's leadership style in this episode. That whole scene where he's pretending to be asleep and forcing the Delta and Bravo shifts to work together.
Oh, yeah.
Some people loved it. They thought it was a clever way to make his team think on their feet and solve problems without him holding their hand.
Right. Sort of a sink or swim kind of approach.
Exactly. But then others were like, wait, that's not Ransom at all. He's usually so hands-on, always jumping into the action. They felt like he was totally out of character.
I can see that. I mean, we've always seen Ransom as this, kind of hyper-competent, almost over-the-top first officer. So to see him suddenly take this super laid-back approach, it definitely felt jarring for some viewers.
Right. It makes you think, like, how much creative liberty can a show take with characters we already know so well, even if it is a comedy like Lower Decks?
It's a tough balance, for sure. You want to keep things fresh and surprising, but you also don't want to alienate the fans by making characters act in ways that just feel wrong.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of surprises, can we talk about Sax's for a minute? I mean, this episode really delves into his PTSD from the Cardassian occupation, which is something we've only seen hinted at before.
It's a side of him we haven't really explored in depth, and it adds a whole new layer of complexity to his character.
Yeah, like all of a sudden his gruff exterior and his love of explosions makes so much more sense. He's carrying a lot of pain and trauma.
Right, and the episode doesn't shy away from the darker aspects of that trauma. His nightmares, the visions he's having, it's all pretty intense stuff.
And then there's that whole fan theory about the pay wraiths. Those evil entities from Bajoran religion. Some people are speculating that maybe Shax's PTSD is more than just psychological. Maybe the pay wraiths are messing with him somehow.
Oh, wow. I hadn't considered that. But it makes sense. I mean, the Power Racers are all about chaos and destruction,
Yeah.
right? So the idea that they might be influencing Shax is maybe even manipulating him for their own ends, it's definitely a chilling thought.
Hold on now, I need a quick explainer here. For those of us who aren't, experts in Bajoran lore, who exactly are these Power Wraiths and why should we be worried about them?
Well, think of them as the opposite of the prophets, those benevolent beings who exist in the celestial temple, which is also the wormhole. The prophets are the source of Bajoran faith and guidance, while the Power Wraiths represent, like I said, chaos and destruction.
Ah, okay, so like the evil twins of the prophets.
Basically. And they've been trying to break free from their prison for centuries.
Yeah.
So the idea that they might be using Shax's to further their goals, it's a pretty big deal. It raises the stakes for the entire show.
It definitely adds a layer of, cosmic horror to Lower Decks, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in a comedic show, there's room for some serious darkness and intrigue. Star Trek has always been good at blending those elements,
For sure. And I think it's especially relevant today when we're all dealing with so much uncertainty and anxiety in the real world. It's like, even in the 24th century, people are still struggling with trauma and trying to make sense of a universe that can be pretty chaotic and unpredictable.
Yeah, there's a real sense of shared humanity in that struggle, even if the characters are aliens and the setting is hundreds of years in the future.
Okay, so we've got some serious stuff going on with Shax, but not everything in Upper Decks is doom and gloom. Can we talk about Billups for a second? I mean, the man was a straight-up badass in this
I
episode.
know, right? Who knew he had it in him? The guy who gets a tummy ache from bagels is suddenly saving the ship like it's nothing. Talk about a hidden talent.
Seriously, it's like one minute he's complaining about his sensitive stomach, and the next minute he's tackling multiple engineering crises like a boss. It's such a great contrast.
It's that unexpected competence that makes it so funny, you know? You think you have him pegged, and then he pulls out these amazing skills that you never saw coming.
And then there's Tiana. I mean, her line, "So am I," after getting shot by a weapon that's supposed to kill, instantly iconic.
Oh, absolutely. Pure Tiana. It perfectly captures her dry wit and that, that kind of gruff, no-nonsense attitude that we love about her.
It's like she's embracing her Kaylation side more and more, which makes me wonder, are those stereotypes about Vulcans being all stoic and unemotional, are they really true? Or is it all just an act?
I think there's more to Vulcans than meets the eye, and Tiana is a perfect example of that. She's not afraid to show her emotions, especially when it comes to protecting her crew.
And speaking of showing emotions,
Yeah.
did you catch that meta commentary at the beginning and end of the episode, the jokes about Mariner's main character syndrome?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Classic Lower Decks right there. It's like they're poking fun at themselves and at Star Trek in general, all those tropes about the captain and senior officers always being the heroes.
Right, like they're acknowledging the formula while simultaneously turning it on its head.
Exactly. And it's so clever because it makes you think about those tropes in a new way. But I also saw some people online saying that the meta humor was a bit too much, like it was breaking the fourth wall a little too obviously.
I can see that. It's a fine line to walk. Too much self-awareness, and it can feel like the show is talking down to the audience.
Yeah, like it's winking at you too hard instead of just letting the jokes land naturally. But overall, I think Lower Decks does a great job of balancing the meta humor with genuine character development and storytelling.
Agreed. It's a show that knows how to have fun with Star Trek while still respecting its legacy.
And that's a pretty impressive feat, especially in today's TV landscape.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but Upper Decks is such a dense episode. There's still so much to unpack.
I know. We haven't even touched on those fan theories about the episode order or the significance of Boimler's beard length.
Right. And what about that heartwarming moment with Stevens, the captain's assistant? The guy's got a heart of gold.
So many details, so little time. It's what makes Lower Decks such a rewarding show to watch and discuss.
Absolutely. And luckily for us, we've got 2 more parts to this deep dive, so we can really get into the nitty-gritty of it all.
I'm ready when you are.
This is your need to know. This is your need to know. This is your need to know. This is your need to know.
Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, all those tiny details in Upper Decks that have fans buzzing. Like, did you notice Boimler's beard?
Ah, yes, the beard. That definitely sparked some debate.
I saw people online, like, seriously analyzing the length of his beard, trying to figure out if the episodes are airing out of order.
Wouldn't be the first time Star Trek played with timelines, right? But it's amazing how much attention fans pay to these little things.
It's like they're combing through every frame for clues, which I kind of love. Speaking of little things, did you catch that scene with Stevens?
Captain Freeman's assistant. Yeah, what about him?
He helps plan that romantic anniversary surprise for Freeman and Ransom. I thought it was so sweet.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. He was surprisingly good at it, too.
I know. Usually he's portrayed as, like, a bit bumbling and awkward.
Yeah, totally. But in this episode, he's like a secret romantic mastermind.
It was a nice reminder that even the seemingly minor characters can have these hidden depths.
Exactly. Everyone on the Cerritos has the story to tell, even if we don't always see it.
Mm-hmm.
Though I gotta say, I did miss seeing Tendi and Rutherford in this one.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people online saying the same thing. It makes sense given that the episode focused on the senior officers.
Right, but it also shows how much fans have come to love those characters. They've become such integral parts of the show.
I think it speaks to the writer's ability to create characters who are both funny and relatable. Okay, back to Upper Decks, though. One thing I found really fascinating is how it weaves in all this established Star Trek lore.
Oh yeah, it's packed with references. Some are pretty obscure too. Like, did you catch the mention of the Chikethi?
The Who? Wait, remind me.
They were this isolationist, super advanced species that the Federation had a conflict with back in the 24th century.
Oh, okay, I vaguely remember. But wait, weren't we dealing with Packolds this season?
We are, which is why that Sankethi reference stood out to me. It felt like maybe the writers are hinting at something.
You know, Lower Decks does have a way of planting these little seeds that blossom into bigger plot points later on.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, could the Sankethi somehow be involved with the Packheads? Or maybe they're a completely separate threat lurking in the background.
Ugh, now my mind's racing. See, this is why I love Lower Decks. It's like a puzzle box for Star Trek fans.
It rewards you for paying attention and knowing your Trek history. Oh, and speaking of paying attention, did you see that comment online comparing Upper Decks to that play, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
Wait, really? Wow. That's actually a pretty brilliant comparison.
I know, right? For those who haven't seen it, it's this absurdist play that follows two minor characters from Hamlet.
Right, they're like caught up in this grand drama but don't really understand what's going on.
And it's kind of similar to what Upper Decks does. We're seeing the Cerritos from the perspective of these characters who are usually on the sidelines. They're living their lives, dealing with their own problems, while this bigger story, the one we normally follow, is happening all around them.
It's like a whole different perspective on the Star Trek universe. And it reminds us that everyone has a story, even the characters who aren't always in the spotlight.
I thought it was really clever how Upper Decks managed to do that while still being funny.
Oh, totally. I laughed out loud so many times during this episode. But it also had some surprisingly poignant moments, like Ransom struggling with the loneliness of command and Shax battling his trauma.
Right. And even Stevens wanting to be helpful and useful. It added a lot of depth to the episode.
It's that perfect blend of humor and heart that makes Lower Decks so special. It's like it can make you laugh 1 minute and then have you pairing up the next.
It's Star Trek for a new generation, but with a deep respect for what came before.
And it never fails to leave me wanting more.
Speaking of wanting more, we've only scratched the surface of Upper Decks. There's still so much to discuss.
Oh, believe me, we're just getting started. Okay, so where do we even begin to wrap up all this Upper Decks craziness? I mean, the episode threw us a lot of curveballs.
It really did. And I gotta say, I'm still stuck on that whole Shaka's storyline.
Right. Like, is this Powerade thing really happening?
I don't know, but it's got me thinking, right? We've got the Packolds as the big bads this season, but they've always struck me as a bit dim.
Yeah.
You know, not exactly criminal masterminds.
Yeah. They're more like, make the scary thing go boom.
Exactly. So part of me wonders, are they being manipulated by the Pawraiths? Like, are the Packolds just pawns in some larger, more sinister game?
Ooh, that's a good one. Or maybe the Pawraiths have their own thing going on entirely and the Packolds are just a distraction.
Oh, see, now that's interesting, yeah.
Right. Like maybe the Pawraiths are using the Packolds to keep the Federation busy while they're off doing something even more nefarious.
It wouldn't be the first time a seemingly minor threat was used to mask a much larger one in Star Trek.
And you know what else is kind of freaking me out? The episode title, Upper Decks.
Yeah.
Like, what if it's not just a clever play on words? What if it's a straight-up hint that the real danger is coming from the upper decks?
Oh, wow, yeah, like the senior officers themselves are the ones who are going to get manipulated or possessed or something.
Exactly. It would be the ultimate twist, right? And it would totally tie into those fan theories about the episode order. Maybe we're seeing the upper deckers in a more sympathetic light now to make their fall from grace that much more shocking.
That's a really good point. It would definitely add a layer of tragedy to the whole thing. And let's be honest, Lower Decks has never been afraid to go to some dark places.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, remember that time Rutherford almost died? And then there's that whole thing with Boimler's clone?
Right, like the show can get real fast, even when it's being hilarious.
Yeah. So the thought of the Pawraiths, these ancient, evil entities potentially corrupting the senior officers of the Cerritos, it's terrifying, but also kind of awesome.
It's definitely a compelling idea. And It speaks to that classic Star Trek theme of exploring the darker side of faith and spirituality, you know?
Right. Like even in the future, with all our technology and advancements, we're still vulnerable to forces we don't fully understand.
Yeah, there's always that element of the unknown, the things that lurk just beyond our comprehension.
Which, to be honest, makes for some pretty damn good storytelling. But even with all this talk about paw-wraiths and potential doom and gloom, I'm still, like, strangely optimistic.
Yeah, that's the Star Trek spirit, right? No matter how bad things get, there's always hope.
Exactly. And I have faith that, Mariner and the gang, they'll find a way to pull through, even if they have to face down some ancient evil along the way.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. This whole Upper Decks episode has given us so much to think about, so many possibilities to explore, and I'm excited and maybe a little scared to see what happens next.
Me too. Big thanks to you for taking this deep dive with me. It's always a blast to unpack these episodes with someone who really gets Star Trek.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, as always. And hey, to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Keep those fan theories coming, because we're definitely going to need them to get through the rest of this season.
And in the meantime, live long and prosper.
And may the Force be with you.
This is your need to know. It's vast and kind of a mess, but someone's gotta clean it, I guess. Not the bridge crew, they're sipping tea. It's the lower decks where the chaos is key. Down on the Cerritos, we're holding the fort, fixing things the captain forgot to report. Mariners reckless, boilers a square, Flynn's impossible fuss, tendies too sweet in Rutherford somewhere. Shields are down, that's our cue. Alien goo, yeah, we'll clean that too. Emotion, how we're stuck in the grind, but who needs pips when you've got this kind? Lower decks, scraping by each day, where the holodecks busted and tribbles don't stay. Where the galaxy's duct tape, patching it up, while the bridge crew's toasting with Earl Grey cups. There's a crisis, it's always our fault. Quick, grab a spanner, or maybe a malt. Klingons are yelling, Romulans glare, but our biggest threat's a paperwork scare. Mariner schemes will make you blush, Boimler's plans a panicked rush. Rutherford's implants go haywire fast. Flynn is logical, is that a grin? And Tendi just smiles while we're getting gassed. We fought slime monsters and Q's weird tricks, endless red alerts and warp core clicks. Holodeck fails, it's a killer bee swarm. Diplomatic dinners, don't mention the gag worm. We're unsung heroes, at least we think. Covered in soot, replicator drink. The bridge crew smiles for a Starfleet pick, while we're elbow deep in a plasma conduit stick. Lower decks, scraping by each day, where the holodecks busted and tribbles don't stay. Where the galaxy's duct tape, patching it up, while the bridge crew's toasting with Earl Grey cups. So here's to us, the fleet's backstage, keeping things running while they engage. We'll fix your warp core, your mess, your pride, and still lock it back before taco night. On the Cerritos, we laugh through the fray, living our lives the Starfleet way. Lower decks forever, we'll never complain, except about the replicator. It's broken again. Backstage, keeping things running while they engage. We'll fix your warp core, your mess, your pride, and still make it back before taco night. On the Cerritos, we laugh through the fray, living our lives the Starfleet way. Lower decks never complain, except about the replicator. It's broken again.